the importance of addiction in behavioral health has been heightened to such a level that its importance has gone beyond any boundaries that we have seen before. It used to be much more difficult to find people that worked in the behavioral health field or that knew about addiction, even for faculty presenters. And now it's something you see every day on the news, whether people are saying, I have these problems or they have these issues, or they're looking to find help, or it's okay, trying to reduce some of the stigma. Those are some huge conversations that I don't think were happening 17 years ago. There was still much trepidation about how much stigma there was, but a lot of people still weren't free to talk about it. I would like, when you come to one of our events, that you feel like you're coming to my house, that you're coming to my party, that you're coming and that you feel welcome and you feel, nurtured in all different ways.
Dee Mcgraw has a BS in psychology from Vanderbilt University, an MSW from Grand Valley State, and over 25 years of experience in the substance abuse treatment and prevention field. Ms. Mcgraw began her career in substance abuse as a therapist. She then coordinated prevention efforts in a 6-county area for the state of Michigan, and then she coordinated substance abuse training statewide. Currently, Ms. Mcgraw is the Director of Education and Event Services for C4 Recovery Foundation, a nonprofit organization with worldwide projects. Her primary responsibility is the conferencing division, which encompasses ACCESS, the Addiction Executives Industry Summit, CCSAD, the Cape Cod Symposium on Addictive Disorders, WCSAD, the West Coast Symposium on Addictive Disorders, the CORE Conference, and other major initiatives.
The state of Kentucky had just passed a law approving one of 2 DUI programs to be taught. I sat in the workshop for a week, and it was an epiphany. I was like, why don't we know this stuff? This is basic kind of stuff. This is transformational knowledge that people should be having. And, it was about addiction, and it was about health and how the brain worked, all that kind of stuff as part of the class. And I said, I think I found what I want to do, because I love teaching. I love training. I have that in my background. I love to do that. And so she happened to be a master's in social work. She said, you need to get your master's degree. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And then that led to that journey. And it was funny because Prevention Research Institute in Lexington, Kentucky, the guy that taught me that class, come and keynote for me about 20 years later. And I introed him, and I said to the audience, this man is responsible for me being here and also for most of you being here. And Ray Daugherty was his name, because this man was so passionate about helping people and what he did that it just transferred to me. And I was like, this is what I want to do. This is amazing. So, and that's been my journey, and this is year 29 for me in the field from that day. When C4 purchased the Cape Cod Symposium from Fred French, who was the founder, Fred's number one mission was always educational excellence. That was always the mission. He said it always needs to be the mission. That is our focus. That's who we are. And so it was. It's always been that way for us to try and look at that and to have that be the basis for most everything that we've done. Everything else has kind of come around that as being the nucleus. We have integrated physicians and nurses into the Cape Cod Symposium, I think, extremely well. They both feel at home, and our clinicians really have enjoyed having the medical component in breaking down some barriers that a lot of times that we find in the field. So that's been a great change for us, and we've built on that every year. ASAM has a very strong presence here, and that's been huge for us. The importance of addiction in behavioral health has been heightened to such a level that its importance has gone beyond any boundaries that we have seen before. It used to be much more difficult to find people that worked in the behavioral health field or that knew about addiction, even for faculty presenters. And now it's something you see every day on the news, whether people are saying, I have these problems or they have these issues, or they're looking to find help or it's okay, trying to reduce some of the stigma. Those are some huge conversations that I don't think were happening 17 years ago. There was still much trepidation about how much stigma there was, but a lot of people still weren't free to talk about it. C4 started as the Coalition for Outcomes-Based Benefits. This is year 32. It was based on the premise that addiction services should be delivered based on what research says is the most effective way to do them, research and science and data, rather than what you can get reimbursed for. And that was a fight that Rick had taken on, 32 years ago. And we're still fighting that fight. We have a lot more people in the Army, a lot more soldiers, and a lot more people taking a look at that. There's a tremendous amount of much more discussion about what that looks like in evidence-based practice and practice-based evidence and all the pieces that we have. But it's still a discussion that I wish we didn't have to have. So maybe somebody's watching this 30 years from now, maybe that's what it's all about. I had some amazing coattails to ride. There were only 2 big conferences at the time, and the first one was CCAD, was the Southeast Addiction Conference. That was run by Pat Fields. She's passed now, and she was a great friend and a great mentor. And Fred started the Cape Cod Symposium after he had been to CCAD. This was a number of years ago, and it was always the little sister. I think the first meeting they said that he might have had in his house, but it was 50 people, and then it grew, and I think when we took over, I think there were maybe 400 people that we have, and maybe 50, 60 kind of exhibitors. Fred never bought a mailing list. It was kind of word of mouth, and as we were doing a transition, trying to say, who do we want to be here? And we realized we have 3 customers. We have our attendees. They need really good quality clinical education. They need to be stimulated and nurtured and, have some of their beliefs possibly shaken a little bit by some of the kind of stuff. So we're not above having a good dialogue that can get some things going and really kind of move things in different directions, no matter, without really an agenda, because we don't particularly have one, other than to broaden the discussion and to really kind of be more inclusive than exclusive. And so in the clinical excellence, as I said, we inherited from Fred. We have our exhibitors who also come here for return on investment. That's another change that's happened from 30 years ago. There used to be, I think, for a lot of programs, a much, much, much bigger marketing budget. They might come and they may sponsor a whole conference, sponsor a whole dinner for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 or whatever they were going to have, because it's expensive to feed 300, 400, 500 people. And we've seen that almost completely down to nothing as far as anything from the big companies. So they're looking for a return on investment for why they're here. They're here to get people to break in and be part of a referral network. They have goods or services that they would like facilities or individual practitioners to use. And so there's that marketplace. So they're our second customer. And our third one would be our sponsors. They're looking for a little bit higher visibility, how they can differentiate themselves from the pack, or to highlight some specific things that might be special about what they do, whether it's a niche that they treat or a special target population, or just the fact that they have maybe some superior clinical work that they do. So we have had to figure out how we can do ROI for all 3 of those. And I think a lot of people see the exhibit hall as just a way to generate money. And for us, it's always been a way for us to underwrite costs for our primary mission, which is excellent clinical education. So that's, without them, nobody could pay the $1,200 it probably would cost per person to be here. So it's important that we really provide that. So I think that's one of the things that differentiates C4 and one of the different directions that we've had to go to try and provide that. So as we've begun to provide more ROI, and they're like, well, who do you want for the exhibitors and sponsors? Who do you want to be here? Well, we need independent practitioners, or we need clinicians that are master's level and above, or we need decision makers, or we need that. We try to go out and find them, or we kind of try to figure out what the best organizations or associations that we might collaborate with in order to do that, because our marketing budget is extremely small. So how do we work smarter, not harder, and who do we want to network with, and how can we develop those relationships? So that's been really important, and I think as the quality of our people has always been good, but sometimes they're not decision makers, and that's who the other people need in, so we need to balance all of that. So as we've been able to kind of create a really good mix, people have said, I was able to get business. This was a successful event for me. And, it's like the old Fabergé commercial. They tell two friends and they tell two friends and so on and so on. And that has been, word of mouth is still our number one way that we get new sponsors, exhibitors, and attendees. It's fun. We had somebody tell me, I think it was one of the best compliments we've ever had. They said, this is not like a seminar. It's not like another kind of an education. He said, this is an experience. He said, I come and I'm nurtured mind, body, soul, and stomach, and that's my sister Susan, who's our marketing director, and I think that we've tried to put some of the spin on what came from our roots as a hospitality kind of piece in the home that we grew up in, which was around food and breaking bread and that really trying to create community. And that's one of the reasons that we do things that are important to us. We try and feed people. We feed them a full breakfast. We feed them a full lunch. We have really good snacks and fun stuff, and we try hard. It may not be the healthiest option, but we do the very best that we can to provide some nurturing for that, so that they're well fed. They've got coffee all day. Little things, I think, that make you feel. I would like, when you come to one of our events, that you feel like you're coming to my house, that you're coming to my party, that you're coming and that you feel welcome and you feel, nurtured in all different ways. I think the field is changing an awful lot. We for years and years have wanted a seat at the table. With some of the other health-related pieces, for this to be seen at that. And I think we finally arrived. I don't think we were ready for it. I don't think we anticipated what we needed to do. We weren't prepared. A lot of people are like, well, what do you think of all these, this venture capital money, all these people coming and buying these things up, all these people doing bad things, this ethics violations, and all these people trying to make money off of this field and on the backs of people. And I said, I think we should embrace it. And they're like, you are crazy. What are you saying? And I said, we've wanted a seat at the table. I said, now we have one. This is part of the baggage. We've arrived. And we need to embrace that. And we need to, shame on us for not anticipating. I mean, with every field, you have people whose interests aren't aligned with yours, everyone. And we need to really, as a field, I think self-police is the right word, come up with what those standards look like, how we can uphold them, whether that's a referral thing back and forth or how we're managing. Really need to take a look at how we do business and who we do that with, and how we hold ourselves and hold people accountable and elevate those that are doing ethical work and try and practice ethically. And even people, as they make mistakes, really try and empower them to do a better job, because that's what we're about. And so I think that that's going to be one of the biggest obstacles or challenges or opportunities, is how we manage that big piece. So we're trying to do what little bit that we can, but I think that's a whole systems change that's done through leadership. I think of Pat Fields, and I think of Fred and some of the other folks, and what fun they had, and what this is their grandchildren. The West Coast is literally a legacy. It's like their grandchildren as they move on. So I find these things to be most successful, as are a lot of initiatives, when it's personality driven. You know, you set the tone, our team sets the tone, and I have the best team on the planet. There's almost nothing that we could not conquer, overcome, or do. And with nothing. We have very little budgets, very little resources, but a whole lot of love and passion. And I think you can do with that. So finding people that have this kind of passion. I'm not a meeting planner. I came up with as a substance abuse therapist for a little bit, and then worked in prevention, and then coordinated some substitute training for the state of Michigan, which is where I found the original the Cobb group, which now is C4. And again, it's some divine intervention and passion, and then mixing with the right people that gave me an opportunity to shine and to grow, and again to have someone to learn from. So my hope is that we run across some other people who are interested in doing what we do and joining our team as we grow, and we kind of organically move it in through there. So I'd love for them to say that, you know, that's what I want. That's the goal. I'd like to have it be like that. I want to recreate that magic. And they said, I don't know what they do. I don't know how they do it, but there's something a little magical in what they do. And that's what I'd like for them to try and say. I want to have that, create that, be a part of that. When Fred walked through the halls, my first day here, literally when they said, you're going to be taking over for Fred. And I think there was tension because Fred was like, you know, who is this person coming to take over? My baby. You know, my truly a personality-driven thing, my baby. I don't know if I like her. I don't even know who she is. And Fred would walk by and say, hi, Jeff, what do you do? Joey, what's happened? Mabel, how's the kids? You know, Suzanne, is your dog better? He'd call everybody by name. He'd know what they did and what they're saying. How's your census or what's happening? You know, all these intimate details of like 400 people. I went home the first night and cried. I was like, I'll never, ever be able to do this. How? With all these people and all these exhibitors. It was his personal touch. He knew and cared and remembered them, and they're all friends. And Susan did the same thing. Susan came and like, well, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. If somebody's on fire, you put them out. If the alarm rings, you just let them out. We just do whatever we can do as we learn and grow. And I said, we're all growing with this. And now I think back and I'm like, hey, Mabel, how's your dog? And Joey, how's your stuff? And, you know, and all these people. And you got to hug 1,000 people. And it is so empowering. It is so beautiful to have that kind of community. It's amazing. And the people are amazing. Just amazing.